Right, thanks for that. Elvis PM live every afternoon, of course, 4 to 6 p.m. But for now, it's Joff from Reenen who's the man in the spotlight. Paddy saying, I find your guest to be full of life. I love him. Give us a demo. I think you've got the demo already, right? And then Paddy saying, what about paintings? It's strange, you didn't say I find your guest full of himself. But isn't that important as well? That you need to be a bit full of yourself because of the confidence that you need to have when you're on that stage, yeah?
I wouldn't say full of yourself.
No?
I would say confidence, absolutely. You need to be approachable. You need to be a people's person. You need to be a little bit crazy to be an auctioneer. It's a very different vocation, if you want to call it that. You need to be a bit of an extrovert. You need to be a little bit nuts. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with high figures. You need to be approachable. You need to be trustworthy. You need to be confident. You can't start shouting tens of millions of rands if you're a little full of yourself, because that's when mistakes start happening.
Of course, yeah. And there's a couple of more. Let me see. It sounds like an auctioneer could become a horse racing commentator easily. I think that's a given, right? In both cases, you actually don't know what they're saying. You just sort of nod your head, right? I was under the impression in a willing buyer, willing seller auction, you are allowed to have a ghost bidder up to the reserve price. Can you do it? No.
No.
Okay.
Highly illegal. What you can do is that, according to the new law, that the seller is allowed to bid up to his reserve price, but not exceeding it. That's to protect his reserve. So the seller, as long as it's advertised and announced pre-auction, completely legal, the seller is allowed to do that.
Okay. And, right, so let me ask you, how then did you get, okay, you are number one. Where you rated? I mean, you have this rating scale, isn't it?
A rating scale?
Auctioneers in this country and then around the world. So there's no time to be modest.
I don't think in South Africa. I entered the World Auction Championships in 2006 in America, and I learned a very valuable lesson that they're a lot faster and have a lot more auctioneers than we do. I don't know. The different auctioneers auction off different assets. You can't auction off art at the pace you can cars or real estate. The versatility of an auctioneer is his strength. You need to be versatile. You need to know when to speed up, when to slow down. Your cadence is important. What kind of fillers you lose. A good friend of mine in America calls it cutting your fill and punching your numbers. So the average person could probably speak between 150 and 200 words a minute. A good presenter like yourself or a horse commentator could speed it up to 400. A good auctioneer, an ex-world champion auctioneer in America, speeds it up to 1,000 words a minute.
Wow.
But you will hear those numbers crisp and clear. That's the important thing.
That's key, eh? Wow. If I want to get your story. So, okay, before I get to Yvonne and Ida calling in. So, there's no championship in South Africa.
There is.
But there's a world championship.
There's a world championship. There's a South African championship. The South African Institute of Auctioneers are doing very, very good work. And they have a big AGM and the South African champs once a year. I think it started about 5 years ago.
So where have you featured?
Where have I featured?
Yeah. I'm trying to check whether I should show you the draw.
I've never entered. I've never entered. Too nervous. It's a nerve-wracking thing.
How do they judge a world champion of auctioneering? On the monies that are raised as a percentage, or what? Is it just the art form?
You judge it on presentation. You judge it on cadence. You judge it on skill. You judge it on speed. You judge it on how well that person could present the auction industry. We've had people, I think I judged it 3 years ago, and we had somebody auctioning off in Zulu. I mean, it was amazing. Someone tried Sotho after that. There was Afrikaans, English. I heard somebody auctioning off in American Dutch in Ohio. He was a long beard. What do you call them? Amish. He was an Amish guy.
Yeah.
The most fascinating thing I've ever heard. You can auction in any language, but there's certain aspects you have to stick to, because if the bidders don't understand you, they're not going to bid.
Tell you what, I'll get to these two calls, probably the last two I can take, but there's someone who actually has sat in on a Joff and Reenen auction. I just got the invite for the first time, so I'll do that soon maybe. But if you've sat in and you've observed and you want to tell us just how good he is, I'd love to know. It's not allow that call. Anyway, Yvonne, go ahead. Hi.
Who's that?
Hi, Yvonne. You're on the air. It's Ashraf.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yes. So this happened some years ago. I had some friends in Franschhoek who had a lovely home and a small shop, and they heard about an auction that was going to take place in Paarl, and there were going to be some antique porcelain at the auction. And he and his wife went along, and he couldn't have been listening too well, and before he knew where he was, he had bought the house in Paarl.
Lucky man.
He said to his wife, let's get home as quickly as possible and put our home on the market. They went back to Franschhoek, and it was a beautiful thatched cottage which they could have had the memorial sign put onto it. And it was eventually sold, and they had to go and live in Paarl. And I believe that the house they lived in Franschhoek is now a restaurant. This must have happened about, could be 20 to 25 years ago.
Lovely, lovely story indeed. Well, strange things happen. So buying a house and selling the house to protect the house that you just bought, something along that line. Thanks for that call, eh? Ida, go ahead. Hi.
Good afternoon. It's Ada here.
Ada, yes,
I wanted to ask a question. I've attended a auction in the week because I'm interested in buying the house. But when I got there, I got like a cold shoulder, because there was like a lot of investors there. And you could see it was all well-off people. And yeah, I am with my cash money thinking, okay, I can get a bargain, But this one investor, he bought both houses. And I felt like screaming and shouting and saying, look, I need the house. Can't you give the house to me? So I just wanted to ask a question. If you in need of a house, and like for instance, there was a house, they start off with 390,000. The house is most probably valued over $1 million, up to 2 million. The house they started at 390 because that was owing to the bank. So they start off with that. He gets the house for 700 and odd thousand. So I'm sitting there. I need the house. He don't need the house. He's making a business. That's his everyday.
All right. I think you need some advice. Hold on. Let's get Joff to comment. Joff.
You should have hit him on the head with my gavel. No. Look, it's a free and fair public auction. Anybody can bid. Some people are buying for prospecting, for investing in property, and others are buying for sole family residence. Yeah. Ada, look, as I said before, register on as many auction websites as you can for property. Go to as many as you can. Follow it online. Follow it in the newspapers. Sooner or later, there are so many auctions happening, you will find something that you need. But
the other point she made about almost being intimidated, the cold shoulder as opposed to cold feet.
Well, look, it's obviously, it depends which auction you went to. You need to get there beforehand. Speak to the auctioneers. Speak to the sales brokers that are there. Ask them as many questions as you can.
Okay.
Obviously, I think it's more.
I want to perhaps ask him, look, I'm interested in this house. I have 500,000. I know exactly when I draw the HQ report, I know exactly what's owing on the house maybe and things like that. And I asked the auctioneer, look, I've got 500,000. Is it possible for me to buy that house before the bid or what? Or doesn't it work that way?
It really depends who the auctioneer is, who the auction company is. The sheriff auctions, you can't. Those are without reserve auctions. They go on the fall of the hammer to the highest bidder no matter what. Our auctions, we probably sell about 20% pre the auction day happening, so we do allow that to happen. At the end of the day, if our seller is happy with a pre-auction offer, we'll accept it on his behalf and the auction will be cancelled. But I would suggest it's probably a confidence issue. Just go to as many auctions as you can.
Good point, Ida. Thanks for that call. Interesting one indeed. Right, we've got about 4 minutes to go. I want to get your story, how it all started for you. We'll do it right after this.